Well, guess what, ladies and gentlemen? It is time for us to learn more about FileMaker Pro. Hi there, my name is Matt Petrowski. I'm here to teach you more about FileMaker. I love teaching FileMaker. If you're going to stick with me in this video, what we are going to be looking at setting the tab order in our layouts and how you do that and some of the other things you need to know about in the inspector. Stick with me. We'll be on my desktop in just a few. All right, so for today, we're going to be taking a look at setting the tab order. And just before we do that, I want to make mention that if you found this video as a result of a YouTube search or a suggested video, or however you found this, if you notice that it's video number 21 in a series, if you'd like to go find video number 1 or the other series that I have here on YouTube, you can click on my channel icon. It's just below me unless YouTube rearranged the page, and you'll find it somewhere on the page. Go to the channel. You will find the different series of videos that I've been producing. Also, the file that I'll be using in this video, you'll be able to follow along if you'd like. You're going to find that in the description. Just click on the show more and that file will come up. Now, just before I get into the file, I have to do this. I get email, obviously, through the magazine, and one of the emails that I got recently, it was mentioned, it said, I want to cancel a subscription from the magazine site. I run a site called FileMaker Magazine. Hey, it's right here on your screen, FileMakerMagazine.com, where I produce more in-depth content, and I wanted to address that. I'm going to show you just one of the things that I'm releasing. It's one of the reasons that a subscription might be worthwhile if you're really into FileMaker development, meaning you really want to become a FileMaker developer and develop the best that you can in FileMaker. I am not covering that type of stuff here on YouTube. I am just skimming the surface and covering very basic things. If you look at what we have right here, this is an example file of the file that I'm going to be releasing, in fact, today on the magazine website, where all of this content right here that's coming from this field, this is in a web viewer, and we can see that we've got a number of people in this database. And what this is talking about is this is an advanced technique that's talking about being able to take whatever content is in a web viewer, but not just within a web viewer, within just a portion of a web viewer. Say, for example, I had generated a little chart or a graph using HTML or a JavaScript library that's much more powerful than FileMaker is, like D3. If I wanted to be able to generate a PDF of this on the client and send this somewhere, I am doing that here within JavaScript. When I click this Make PDF, you can see that a PDF shows up in two places. It shows up here in the actual web viewer where I could, this is a web viewer that I can scroll, but then within this web viewer, I have an iframe where I can scroll the PDF. Or, optionally, I'm transferring that PDF here into a container field. Now, what makes a technique like this really useful is that you can use a web viewer to display anything that FileMaker cannot display. And if you don't know this about FileMaker, then you might be thinking, oh, I can just use FileMaker's print to PDF. And yes, you can, but it doesn't always fit in all situations. So if you're ever considering, I want to do more advanced things, I want to take my level from beginner to intermediate and from intermediate and beyond, that's what you're going to find at the magazine website. Topics like this that are covered. All right, so enough about that. Let's go ahead and I'll close that file. And we will switch to the file that you have access to, which is here on YouTube, down underneath that description, our time track database. Very powerful database so far with very minimal scripting in this, and what we're going to be looking at is the tab order. So we're going to go into layout mode, and the tab order simply controls what is the order in which users are going to tab through all of the fields. Now let's head back into browse mode with a quick Command or Control B. Now when I hit the tab key here, what you're going to see is that I'm going between these two fields. The tab order works on the record. You don't tab to another record. You're always staying within the same record, and it doesn't matter whether it's list view or form view or table view for that matter. You can see that as I hit the tab, what just became the focus right here was another object, and it goes back to this field, and this field. So on this layout, there's really only 3 items that are currently set within the tab order. Now, there's a number of things that we need to know about the tab order, and that is how does the tab order, well, one, we'll find out how you set the tab order, but number two, how does the tab order react when it's on certain things? In other words, you notice that the tab order here will tab into a field, into another field, and that's expected, but I can also tab to a button object. So if I was to hit the Enter key right now, that simply executes that button. And I can't hit it again because the tab order took me off. So, first off, where do you set the tab order? Super simple. We're going to go into layout mode and we are going to go up to the arrange menu, or excuse me, the layouts menu, and we are going to find this item right here of the set tab order. So when we select this, FileMaker is going to come up with this dialog box where we get to set the tab order and you get to control what you're going to interact with, or what the user is going to interact with. You can exclude all buttons, you can exclude all fields, don't know why you would want to, but you can choose what you want to deal with, fields or buttons. Now, currently as it stands, FileMaker assigns the tab order for you initially based on the fields that you add to the layout as you add them. You can change the tab order, or you can reset at any time by clicking this Clear All. Once we've gone into this state, if we click Clear All, it simply takes all of the numbers off of all of the items that we have on the layout. Now, the thing that we need to pay attention to here is the fact that if we have complex layouts, such as we have here, where we've got a tab control, that tab control can have fields on tabs that are not currently showing. The same thing applies to sliders, popovers, what have you. When you're going to assign the new tab order, you simply have to know that you're going to have to navigate the user interface the same way that the user would if there's a field within this particular tab. So let's go ahead and add one there. I'm going to go to the form and I'm just going to option drag one of these fields. And computer is really slow for some reason. Hopefully my stream is going out here. And I will select, I don't know, I'm going to put the creation timestamp here. I don't know why that field didn't want to move there, but I'll move it there now. So we've got that field. Now, if I go back to that tab order, my computer's moving really slow for me today. We can see that FileMaker has reset that tab order. I don't know why FileMaker did that. If I click OK, I should have a no tab order when I go back into that setting. I should go back to tab order, and FileMaker should not have set the tab order. There we go. So we have a no tab order. So if I was going to set this tab order, notice that I'm going to have the areas that I want to be able to get to active in order to set the tab order. If I go and set the tab order now without that tab showing, and don't confuse the tab order with a tab control, but notice that I can't necessarily get to that field that's in that tab right there. With this dialog forward, I'm not able to select over here and choose that particular object right there. Oh, I did. Excuse me, my fault. You can select it. In fact, that wouldn't make sense that FileMaker wouldn't be able to do it. My fault. So basically what you do here at this stage is you choose what order you want the items to be in. Now you can simply click, and as you click, items will be added. So that's the primary way of doing this. But once you set your tab order, the difficulty is when you add a new field, how do you get that new field to be within your tab order without having to re-walk through this whole process? Sometimes you have to re-walk through the whole process. It's just a byproduct of what happens as your layout gets more complex. But there are times where I would be able to say I want to go to 1, 2, and then 3, and then let's say I want to go up to this popover. I want to give myself the ability to hit this button, and I say OK. And now I want to, I've added a new field. I want to readjust the tab order. Well, I'm going to go back to the tab order again. Zoom in. What I can do is as I click here, FileMaker is just going to pick up whatever the last number was. We can see that FileMaker is saying that we are at tab order number 5 out of 19 total. If I click right now, FileMaker is probably just going to add the next item or the next number in sequence in terms of, okay, we're going to go from 5 to number 6. Well, if I wanted this, for example, to be number 3, I can hit that as number 3, and as I hit tab, FileMaker is going to adjust all of its numbers accordingly after that particular number. So you can see that this was 3, it became 4, this became 5, and this became 6. So it simply just shifted everything from that direction. So that's pretty much how we can inject something, but you have to know that the tab order is going to just, you have no control of what that shift is. It just shifts to the next and increments everything by 1. So what about working with this fields only versus buttons only? Well, we can click clear all, and you can play with this just like I'm going to do right here. We can select it the fields only. We want to add all of them, and FileMaker is really not going to give us a choice here. I don't think I've ever used this option in my whole FileMaker development career. If you have, I'd be interested. Put a comment down below. I'd love to hear about the benefits if there is one. Likewise, if I've never used the fields, I've never used the buttons only. Typically, when it comes to setting the tab order, I set the tab order as the last thing that I'm going to do after I've fully designed the layout the way that I want to do prior to deployment. That means before you're going to give users the ability to use this. Now you can use this option right here to remove all buttons, remove all fields, and you click remove. So if I was to remove all fields here, well, let's just remove all buttons. So it should take off this one, this one. Actually, it has the fields now currently. Let's remove the fields. And we'll click remove, and it just takes them off. So these convenience items right here, the remove and the add, and adding fields only, buttons only, to be honest, I really have not used them. Really, the only thing that I do typically is I open up the set tab order, I click clear all, and then from that point, I just start to say I want this one, then I want this one, and then I want, I click the order that I want. And many times, if you find that last tweak that you want to throw in just before you're going to deploy the database, you have to think about, did this screw up my tab order? And that's when you have to go in and double check and look, is this following the sequence of items that I want to follow? So now let's talk about the inspector and how the inspector impacts that, because that's pretty much it when it comes to the tab order. What is the order in which I want to expose fields or objects when the user hits the tab key? But remember, it is not just the tab key. In fact, if you want users who do a lot of data entry to really have the best benefit with the tab order, you're going to have to remember that the inspector gives you a couple of options when it comes to fields. You're going to be selecting the data tab in the inspector, and I'm going to hide the field options here. If FileMaker will hide those, guess it really wants to take a delay. Don't know what's going on with my computer right now. But here's what we're looking at. Go to next object using. These items right here of the tab, the return, and the enter on any given field, if that field is a single piece of data, meaning it's a field that is not going to receive returns, in that it's a text field where you're adding a lot of different text with returns, I like to turn on both the return and the enter options. Now the return is different than the enter. If you have a shorter keyboard and you're using a Macintosh, you probably don't have the enter key, you have the return key. But the return key, if you look at the keyboard, I'm looking at mine right now, there is the word, if you're on an English version of a keyboard or an international, they'll have whatever word represents return versus enter. Enter is also on that key, and on the Macintosh shorter keyboard, if you hold down the function key, that executes the enter key. Now, if you have an extended keyboard with the 10 keypad, that's going to be the enter key all the way over there, and that's how you distinguish those. An extended keyboard, the enter key is over with the keypad, with the number keypad, and on a short keyboard, it's with the just your normal return. So I like to turn both of these on for any field where there's not going to be returns. Now in this case, because this is a description field, I do not want the return or the enter turned on, so I would turn those off. And those are pretty much the options that I believe fit into the realm of the tab order. And other than that, having that we took a look at the tab order, that's pretty much how it works. My suggestion is that you just save setting the tab order until you know that you're completely finished with the user interface design and you are about ready to deploy. It's probably the final step that I do right before I'm going to deploy is go to each of my layouts and either verify that the tab order is what I want it to be, or at that point set the tab order just before I'm going to deploy. And one of the things that's also helpful is if you're working on a database and you are not familiar with the tab order, then my suggestion is go into layout mode, go to the format, set the tab order, move this off to the side, and take a screenshot. Taking a screenshot of this with the tab order saved, especially if you didn't design the database, gives you the visual reference in order to know what you should set the tab order back to, especially if you've gone in and you've accidentally mangled the tab order. Say, for example, when I made my mistake here, I clicked and I accidentally clicked into this, and all of a sudden, I don't know what my tab order was now. Without that visual reference, this came in and it's 6. Do I want to go back and do I want to change this to 6? And if I do that, that makes that 5. Oh no, now my tab order is completely messed up. So having that visual reference, taking a screenshot and keeping it somewhere within the documentation of your database as you develop is helpful if you need to go in and reset that tab order, at least for the sake of anybody else who needs to do it if you're working with multiple developers on the same file. So I think that's going to give us a nice quick little wrap for the tab order. Let's see if anybody came in with any questions. I'll switch over and we will pop open the questions and take a look at what we've got. Happy MLK. Yeah, it is a holiday today. All right. Solve the problem. That was in a foreign language. Let's see, solve the problem I had, and the solution was really busy programming, had a deadline to overhold. Does the tab order persist upon a copy of a group of fields into another layout? It does not. Each layout will have its own tab order. If you, and again, just run the test. If you select a number of these fields and they include a tab in the tab order on this layout, as soon as you paste them to another layout, they are added to whatever that tab order is, I believe. You can always test that out. I don't know that fields when you're building a new layout may be added. So I would just test that out in FileMaker. Question, can you make a list of content? Can you make a list of content from 2 related fields? And Osteen, you'll have to clarify on that. Do you mean the list function or a list of 2 values from 2 separate fields? So when you say a list in FileMaker terminology, I'm either thinking of the list function, which will grab a list of related data from 2 different related fields, or you want to combine the value of 2 fields on one record. So we'll take a look at your follow-up here. Say you have numbers in one field, list function, yes. Say you have numbers in one field and letters in a second. I want to list read 1A to B. Okay, I get what you're saying. FileMaker does not have a native function in order to do that, but it definitely is possible to do. There is an absolutely wonderful custom function that I put definitively in every single FileMaker database that I do, and it is called the custom list function. And the custom list function will allow you across a list of data to run across another list of data and do whatever you want with regards to FileMaker's calculation engine. In other words, if simply you just want to combine 2 values from 2 related fields and do that across a number of related records, custom list will allow you to do that. But it allows you to go way beyond that. You can run full FileMaker calculations across all of the data of the record sets. Way beyond the scope of this, but I cover it a lot at FileMakerMagazine.com if you've got a subscription. Here's another question. Not here, but where would I send ideas for the magazine site? Some stuff I'd love to know. You can always send anything to editor@FileMakerMagazine.com. And I love your questions, your suggestions. In fact, once we transition this particular database that we're working on, I will probably be setting up the scripting portion of this series, the Scriptology Mastery series, and it will probably be a paid subscription to access the scripting portion on the magazine website, and I will be converting the YouTube channel to a question and answer. You send in questions, and I will just answer them. I love getting here on YouTube. I love providing content, and I figure that's going to be probably a good transition. Another question came in: how to set up a tab order for portal-only fields. That would be really simple. You would basically, when you go into that tab order dialog box, click clear all, and then simply set the tab order or set the tabs on the portals. One thing to note is that a portal, when it comes to the tab order, if that portal, the relationship, does have the allow creation of related records checked for the relationship that that portal is tied to, FileMaker, when you go to the next field, will continually go to the next, the empty record database, or the empty record database, the empty record row where you can add new records. Now, if you don't add anything, then it should jump out of that last record row where you could add records and go to the next field in the tab order. Just something good to know. But yeah, in order to set up a tab order for portal-only fields, you would just simply have to clear all and ignore all of your other fields. And yeah, Lee is mentioning and check out the custom functions. And thank you, Austin. Yes, there is tons of stuff. There's tons of value over on the magazine website. All right, that looks like our last question that came in here. Makes it a nice tight video, about 20 minutes. So I think we will start our wrap-up. All right, there we go. And there's our switch to our subscribe. So if you'd like to be notified, you can be notified on YouTube here. And don't know what happened to my music there, it dropped out. Otherwise, the next video in this series will be coming up right here. And until next time, much luck to you and happy file making.